No one knows the ins and outs. Apparently, you read across the Western media that he's been in isolation for a long period of time, that he's frightened of COVID, but we don't know. What we do know is what you've just said, which is that he has his finger on the button of the most devastating nuclear arsenal on Earth. And these bellicose blue Twitter warriors should possibly go over to the Ukrainian embassy in London and volunteer to go and fight for them. Because it's appalling, the bellicosity of this. Hitler did not have nuclear weapons. We should not be winding up a very unstable, a man who does not obey international law, has contempt for it, as far as I can see from his actions. We should not be winding this man up. We should be hoping that he's made such a bad decision that he's taken down from within. But he's the greatest threat to modern civilization I can see, as far as I'm concerned.
If whatever your posture is, whether you're in an armchair and however bellicose you are about this, is not the appropriate response. If you are furious with what's happening, and if you are serious about offering a response to it, it's to go down to your local recruiting office of the British Army, the RAF or the Royal Navy and sign up. And sign up potentially for years, because that's what we're looking at here, potentially. A resumption of the Cold War, a restoration of the Cold War 2.0, whatever it is. And we're going to see again, I think, large garrison towns, which we used to see in Germany, 50,000 strong at one stage, in countries like Estonia and Poland. If you're serious about hating Putin and everything he stands for, that is the rational response.
That would make sense, wouldn't it? It is the rational response. The most difficult thing about this is he's totally unpredictable. I mean, he's predictable in his unpredictability, but we also have to take responsibility as the West for our NATO expansionism. And Ukraine has been, as far back as decades ago, people have been saying that's a red line for Putin. So, he's a despotic, evil, megalomaniacal psychopath, and he's in a situation where he cannot go backwards. There's no way out for him. Stalin died in power. Yeltsin managed to negotiate his way out of it, but he is in a position now where every option is open to him. So I think it's really important that we very much realize that there's a great deal more under threat than those calling for no-fly zones in the Ukraine airspace are. I mean, this is absolute insanity. This man is deeply unhinged, I would say.
Well, and that's why I know people feel it's a non sequitur, but I mean that's why I'm drawing attention to those pictures and the COVID question, and indeed potentially the balance of his mind. I'm struck, and I sense you are too, Laurence Fox, by what I'm hearing, and it reminds me a little bit to some of the reaction we saw to the demands for airstrikes in Syria a few years ago, and people were popping up who I had sort of pigeonholed as pacifists, as people who were no friends of military action, and suddenly they were talking in incredibly intemperate language, very bellicose, very belligerent, almost jingoistic, and we're seeing it again, aren't we?
Well, George Galloway tweeted earlier today, scratch just underneath the skin of a liberal and you'll find an authoritarian totalitarian. And I sort of agree with him. It's very, very dangerous to try and stoke these flames as they are at the moment. And whether he's paranoid about COVID or not, we don't know. What we do know is at the touch of a button, he can wipe out the entire population of the Earth.